Hi, thanks for joining me. Mindy Mandell here. And today we are finally at the last video in this series on Plato's Parmenides. So today I'm going to talk about the ninth hypothesis, and then also at the end of this video I'm going to talk a little bit about wrapping all of the hypotheses up. So here we are at the end of looking at if the one is not. And so we have our 4 questions, and we have matched these to 4 different hypotheses. We saw that the 6th hypothesis looked at if the one is not, what follows for the one. The 7th looked at what follows for the one in relation to the others. The 8th looked at what follows for the others in relation to themselves in light of the one not existing or not functioning in that person's life. And so now we're going to go on to the 9th hypothesis. What follows for the others in relation to the one? Now, the 9th hypothesis is rather short, but there's quite a bit packed into here. And it starts at 165e. And all of the quotes that I'm presenting come from the translator Harold North Fowler. So the 9th hypothesis begins with Parmenides saying this statement. Let us then go back once more to the beginning and tell the consequences if the others exist and the one does not. Okay, so we're looking at the others then in relation to the one, and the first thing he's going to say about the others is that they can't be one if the one does not exist. That part is easy enough, but then a problem develops because they can't be many either. For if they were many, one would be contained in them. And if none of them is one, they're all nothing, so that they cannot be many. So I want to focus for a minute here on this last sentence here. If none of them is one, then they are nothing. So in the 9th hypothesis, we are looking at a pure nihilism. And on one level, the 9th hypothesis is completely absurd because obviously there is something. There's you, there's me, there's the device you are watching this on, the devices that I'm recording it on. There are the concepts that we're discussing. So there are things that have some mode of existence. So there can't be nothing. So on one level, this is absurd. But on another level, this sentence also captures the first hypothesis, and it captures this whole dialogue, really. If none of them is one, then they are nothing. And so there is a more profound level at which we can say there's something about this that we cannot reject. And yet on another level, it's absurd. And I think this is why sometimes mystics can sound like nihilists if you don't understand what they're saying. And sometimes nihilists can be saying things that sound, at least on some level, to be profound. They can sound like profound mystics, again, if you don't quite understand. So you have to know in what way they're saying this statement. So there's something very curious here in the 9th, that it is wrapping up all of the hypotheses and bringing us back to the first. So here's another concise statement of that point, that if the one is not contained in the others, then the others are neither many nor one. And now he's going to say they can't even have appearances. So the 8th hypothesis gave us the world of the sensory world, the world of the cave. And in the 9th hypothesis, we're saying we don't even have that. If they do not even appear to be one or many. Why is that, Aristoteles asks? Because the others have no communion in any way whatsoever with anything which is non-existent, and nothing that is non-existent pertains to any of the others, for things that are non-existent have no parts. Okay, so nothing at all exists, complete nihilism. We don't have the world of appearance. We also don't have the opinions that exist in the world of appearance. I talked about that some last week. So we don't have the shadows on the wall of the cave. We also don't have the opinions of the people watching those shadows and mistaking them for reality. And he goes on to say that nor is the non-existent, conceived of in any way whatsoever as related to the others. So you don't even have concepts. You can't even have fantasies or images, as we had in the sixth hypothesis. We have nothing at all, complete nihilism. If the one does not exist, then none of the others will be conceived of as being one or as being many either, for it is impossible to conceive of many without one. And so, to say it concisely, if the one does not exist, then the others neither are nor are conceived to be either one or many. And now he's going to go on to deny, in the ninth hypothesis, deny of the others, any of those categories that were affirmed in the second, denied in the first, affirmed in the second, appearances in the eighth, concepts in the sixth. Can't have any of those. Can't have like or unlike. Same or different, in contact or separate, all those categories, nor any of the other things which we were saying they appeared to be. So again, complete nihilism, denying all of it. The others neither are nor appear to be any of these, if the one does not exist. And so now here we have a concise statement tying it all together. If we were to say in a word, if the one is not, nothing is, should we be right? And Aristotle replies, most assuredly. Now this statement here could be seen as the conclusion to the ninth, but also because the ninth is wrapping up the negative hypotheses, to say in a word sounds like a concise bringing together of all of the negative hypotheses. And so it can also be seen, I think, as a statement of that if the one is not, all four of those questions, all four of the hypotheses tied to the hypothetical, if the one is not. If it's not, then nothing is the conclusion of the ninth that we get from the ninth. And Aristotle says, most assuredly. Because we are now at the end of the dialogue, Plato is also going to give us a wrap-up of all of the hypotheses, not just the ninth or just the negatives. Here's how he does it. So first I'm going to read it and then I'll break it down. He says, let us say that, and we may add as it appears, that whether the one is or is not, the one and others in relation to themselves and to each other, all in every way are and are not, and they appear and they do not appear. And so we see that when you put all of these hypotheses together, there's this absurdity of them canceling each other out. But we can talk about if the one is, that's our positive hypotheses. If the one is not, our negatives. The one in relation to itself is the second and the sixth. The others in relation to themselves would be the fourth and the eighth. The one and the others in relation to each other. So the third and the seventh looked at the one in relation to the others. The fifth and the ninth looked at the others in relation to the one. So we're covering all of those hypotheses 2 through 9. They in every way are, those are our positive hypotheses. They in every way are not, our negative hypotheses. They appear. The fourth and the fifth dealt with appearance on the positive, among the positive hypotheses. These are an image of the one, an image of God. And do not appear. The eighth and the ninth among the negatives gave us appearance. The eighth accepted the appearances but said that the one is not, but there's only the appearance. The ninth denied even the appearances. And so you have everything sort of canceling each other out here, and this is to bring us back to the first. Now, to see this more clearly, because I think when we read this, we wonder, well, what was the point of going through all of this if this is the conclusion? What a crazy conclusion. But that, I think, is exactly the point. And you can see this more clearly by going back to how the first hypothesis ended and how Parmenides transitioned into this longer discussion of hypotheses 2 through 9. Here's just one statement I pulled out from the conclusion of the first. If the one then, from what they're concluding here, has no name, nor is there any description or knowledge or perception or opinion of it. Okay, remember, everything was denied of the one in the first hypothesis. Parmenides asks Aristoteles, is it possible that all this is true about the one? Can you accept this conclusion of the first hypothesis? And Aristoteles said, I do not think so. That created a problem because this is the correct one. And so now Parmenides suggests, shall we return to our hypothesis and see if a review of our argument discloses any new point of view? And he says, by all means. So then they consider if the one is, what follows? And we have hypotheses 2 through 5. If the one is not, 6 through 9. When we go through all of that, we realize, oh, all of these fall short of the first hypothesis 1. So these hypotheses, there are things about them that we like, especially the second. It's not to say that we have to reject them entirely, but especially if you recognize that there's a state of mind attached to each one, then you see something very curious here, because then what you see is that even the second hypothesis, as profound as it is, it falls short of the first hypothesis. The state of mind here, any of you who have experienced reality itself, it's often called an enlightenment experience or the experience of the most brilliant light of being. It's such a profound, beautiful experience that it's easy to come away from it convinced that there is nothing beyond this. There can't possibly be anything beyond it. And yet even this has a cause. And so to be in the state of mind of the second, as beautiful as it is, as healthy as it is, it still falls short of the state of mind of one who has realized the first. And when I say realize, I mean more than just conceptually following the argument that Parmenides is laying out, but realizing it at the level that Plotinus writes about it. Like, for example, in his Aeneid, I think it's 6-9, the one and the good. He talks about how the mind reels at the possibility of just dropping everything. That's the difficulty, the struggle from going from the second to the first. So even that state of mind falls short. When you see these as states of mind, then you can do something very curious with this dialogue. For example, we saw that the absurdities of the negative hypothesis would bring us to the positive ones. And so you can think about a person who's in the states of mind of one of those hypotheses, 6 through 9, how they would transition to the positive. What would that mean? You can also think about the upward transition. For example, nihilism may fall away into materialism. Probably a person in the 9th, in that state of mind, is not going to jump to the state of mind of the 2nd or 3rd, but they may go to the 5th or to the 8th. A person in the 5th, you have that complete separation of the divine and the mundane, where there's absolutely no contact. That basic dualism is the structure of many religious systems, which would be represented by the state of mind of the 4th. However, the 4th allows for some interaction and through prayer, for example, and other forms of theurgy. And so there could be a movement from the 5th to the 4th. The 4th are still belief systems, though. And so as long as you stay at that level of belief, you're going to stay at the limitations of those beliefs. And so you're going to stay in a certain limited way. But if you allow yourself a more openness to experience the divine more openly, you can experience your unlimitedness, and that brings you into the 3rd. As you get into a study of metaphysics and you experience more deeply, you may go into the 2nd. You may even have that highest, most beautiful experience. And yet even there is something beyond that. The first hypothesis is a jump outside of the whole system. And so you're seeing all of that. And it's really quite impressive that Plato captured all of these states of mind. It's really the whole range of states of mind that we see in the world, from that most profound experience of the second in the state of mind of someone at the second, to the nihilism or the materialism of like the 8th and 9th, the mystics who even jump beyond that to the 1st, and everything in between. It's just all here in this very concise dialogue, but it's hidden in a way that many people don't see it. But when you start to open it up and you start to see all these things, get so many thoughts going and so many insights going. So I hope that this series helped you to at least get started in having that level of insight. And I'd really like to know what this dialogue has done for you. What are your thoughts, your insights as you're going along? What are the questions or the troubles or difficulties you're having also? Please leave some comments below if you have anything you'd like to share with us. And as always, I do hope that you'll subscribe if you don't already. And also, please like the stream if you enjoyed this, or the video, excuse me, if you enjoyed this. From next week or next time, I'll be going on to new topic, and I hope you'll join me for that. So thank you very much.